This was an interesting fight I had with the wolf where I was doing my double bubble, which I spent most of my time in the wolf doing the double bubble because it seems to be a really awesome strategy for this little frigate. You can choose your targets, you can make some decent ISK, and the fights you get start pretty close. They all start within scram range, so the risk of kiting is much reduced by using this strategy. Even if somebody were to come in through the gate and warp to the bubble, they would get pulled to the bubble unless it's an interceptor, and therefore they would be forced to come in close, and so you would have a chance to get the scram and stop the kite. So what happened here is these guys hated when I camped this system. I would get some good kills here, but they absolutely hated me camping this. So what they would do is just about every time I came here, I'd get a couple kills, and then they'd form a response fleet, a huge blob. You know, sometimes it was just 5-10 people, sometimes a couple times it was 30-40 people, all just to come kill me. And so what happened, let's go and start it. So I just killed a pod, and I think it was a decent pod, I'm not sure. But I just killed a pod, and something came into system, or several targets came into system. I think it was several. So there's only like 2 people in here, and then all of a sudden it went up by 3, I think. And so I know something's coming. What I've done there is I've moved myself outside the bubble. Because whenever there's more than one target coming in at a time, you have to expect that someone's coming to kill you. And that it's not just a single guy, it's going to be maybe a Falcon and a PvP ship or logistics, or you never really know. So it's always better to play with a little bit of defense. So what I've done is I moved to the outside of the second bubble. Therefore, I'm going to be probably 4 or 5k from any target that lands. However, if I choose or if something were to uncloak 4 or 5k behind me on the edge of the other bubble, then I could quickly hit warp and warp out of there and warp. Typically I would warp to the gate that was the inbound, so I would warp to XHQ, which is the inbound here, because I know there's no bubble there, and they never think to protect that. So, you know, if any of my targets are watching, you would have caught me several times had you just jumped in and put a bubble on the XHQ gate, because I would typically just warp there. And usually that's where their blob was on the other side of that gate, but I would hit the gate and bounce off really quick. Probably not the best strategy for me. I slowed my ship down there. I slowed it down to 47 meters a second, trying to stay mostly aligned. Still very defensive because I don't know what's coming. It's a long warp, but whatever it was should have been here by now. It seems to be taking longer than it should, which anytime something takes longer than it should, you can usually safe to assume something's not quite right. So now we've got a Dramiel and a Miasmos, which is a hauler. So not really worried about the hauler, but sometimes the haulers are just bait tackles. They got a lot of hit points and they'll tackle something and hold it for a fleet. Had they led with the Miasmos and got a good tackle on me, maybe they'd have done better. But they bring in the Dramiel, and I know that my wolf is a pretty good match for a Dramiel. Now, it all depends on what type of Dramiel I'm fighting. He's at roughly 5k once he fully decelerates here, maybe 6k. For me, to fight that Dramiel, I need to manage transversal as my priority. I need to keep him at a little bit of range, ideally, because the Dramiel is going to be just as small as me, but he's going to be faster than me if he's afterburner fit. If he's not afterburner fit, then I'm going to control the range of the fight and control that fight. So let's see what he does. Now it actually came to a stop only 3.6k away. I immediately hit approach. No, actually I hit an orbit. Orbit 500. Okay, I mean I can see that, but I'd be better off hitting approach. I got to be very careful of my surroundings. I got to watch local, because this is a very blobby environment. They always try to blob me here, so I'm very conscious of that. As I've always told you before in my other videos, from the very start of all my PvP videos, I tell you that he who gets damage on first has an advantage. It looks like he might have beat me by a split second. Typically the person who is coming in has a slight edge in that department, because if you'll notice at the beginning, which it's not worth rewinding for, that A lot of times when the target comes out of warp, you can't lock them for like 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds until they do something. And so they're the one who breaks it, therefore they're the one who starts the lock faster. Unless they're a bigger ship with a slower lock time, if they're a frigate, then they're probably going to get shots on you first. But still, speed is crucial. Getting DPS on is crucial. We see the Miasmos coming in now, and we can look at the guns here. He has 150s. So you can see, let me scroll a little bit forward there. He's got 150s. He's got a newt on me. It's just a small newt, not a big threat. My Nas can neutralize that so long as I'm not running my rep. With my rep running, it gets a little dicey, but not too bad. But you look at the hits, I'm hitting him much better with my 200s, which track not as well as the 150s he's using. So his guns are a little bit smaller, therefore should track better. But I'm clearly tracking better and applying damage better. I'm orbiting at 500 still. However, I wish I could go back. And I think the better, because he seems to be kind of running away from me or something. I don't know if he's running away, if he's orbiting back. But you can see he's even missing me, which is pretty cool. That's how small and awesome this wolf is. Dramiel misses you, which is absurd. So in this case, right now, if I could go back and take control, I would either hit approach right now, because I think that's the better move, or I would hit keep at 1K, and then watching my damage notifications up here, I would look to see if I had any misses. And whenever you see misses, it means move back. But right now he's missing, I'm not. So I'm doing pretty much the right thing. My threat radar, we'll call it that, my spidey sense right now is tingling because this Miasmos came in. He's from Severance. You can see the 7 there. Not the same group as this other guy, I'm not sure. But either way, they're all like this. Everyone in this area works together. So whenever you have 2 targets on grid, you can safely assume both of them are against you and both of them are working together. So I have to assume the Miasmos is here to get tackled on me. He's a bait hauler with tackle. Now, it doesn't mean he is. He may not be. But I have to assume that he's here just to try to hold me down so a fleet can get in. There's also the possibility that this Dramiel has nothing to do with the response fleet, the Providence response fleet. He could just be another solo PvPer. I'm interested to see who he's with. Right now I just see the ZER, which I have no idea. But maybe it's just a coincidence that he came at the same time. Therefore, maybe that's why local hasn't spiked yet. If the Dramiel was tackle for a fleet, local would have spiked the moment he got the point. So it makes me think maybe the Miasmos is tackle. So let's see what happens. There's the spike. So it's unknown, but what we can probably guess here, and I'm still curious to know, is what I'm guessing has happened is the Miasmos has reported on comms. He's fighting a Dramiel. They're inside the bubble. They're tackled. FC says, everybody in, jump in, warp to 4B. And I said this in my recent video, Zugswang, that I just released a few days ago. Depending on when you're watching this, it may have been a long time ago. But in the Zugswang video, I said that whenever you're in a situation like this, and this is the thing that I've tried to teach from the very beginning about the way I PvP. Now, everybody has their own unique way of PvPing. And, a different teacher is going to teach different things because different things have worked well for that teacher. It's like you may have one chess player who works really well by attacking and one chess player who works really well by being patient and letting their opponents make mistakes. So you play to your strengths. But the way I've always been able to get an advantage and see fights and work on them is that I try to always use, I don't know what the word is, I try to always put myself in their position. So throughout the fight, I'm trying to think, what's this Dramiel thinking? And can I use that against him? What's this fleet thinking? Is the Dramiel with the fleet? I have to assume maybe he is. Is the Miasmos tackle for the fleet? Maybe he is. I have to think all these things, and I'm thinking, clearly there's a fleet. because local is spiked. Clearly, there's a very real threat to me, and so if there's a fleet, one of these guys is no doubt involved in that fleet. Therefore, I can make a safe, pretty much guaranteed decision that yes, I've got bad stuff coming. Looks like maybe 15 plus bad things coming at me. 15 plus targets that are about to be landing on top of me, that I need to get the hell out of here, and I need to try to start thinking now, yes, that Dramiel is at 50% shield, but there's no guarantee I'm going to break him in the time it takes a frigate to warp 76 AU. I've got maybe 10 seconds now. 10 seconds until I've lost this fight. So in that 10 seconds, I've got to accomplish a couple things. I've got to get outside the bubble, for one, make sure I'm outside the bubble. Two, I've got to either or kill this Dramiel in a line, or fake this Dramiel out enough to get outside scram range for a split second and warp away. Now, knowing this fleet, knowing how the fleet thinks, using my, what would it be called? Empathy? Is that kind of what it is? I don't even know what the word is. But you kind of put yourself in their place and you know what they're thinking. That whole fleet, they're too greedy to leave anyone on the other gate. They're way too greedy. Everyone in that fleet saying to themselves, oh man, we got a target. We're going to kill the wolf. This is the wolf that's been killing all the pods and the haulers and all the other stuff. And man, we're going to get revenge. We're going to blob the crap out of this guy. And they're all excited. They're about to get a cool kill mail. And so every single one of them has warped. Every single one is warping as fast as they can to get to this bubble. Not a single one stayed back to watch the other side. So I've got 10 seconds now. So what am I going to do? It's been a couple weeks, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to hit that XHQ gate and align to it. Yep. Overload the afterburner, because now what I'm going to do is I'm playing both my cards. So for one, I'm going to leave my guns overloaded. They're not even taking damage yet. I think they might have like 5 or 10% there. It's hard to see. Leave the guns overloaded. Align away. As I align away, my guns will track better and I will do more damage for the first few kilometers. But then once I get beyond that, my damage will start to fall off. Tracking will get better, but damage will reduce as I go into fall off. This guy in the Dramiel's in peak tank. I'm not having to run my tank at all yet. So I very clearly won this fight. I've not just won this fight, but I've dominated the fight. It appears that if the Miasmos is bait or tackle, he's very bad at his job. So he's probably just a hauler. So I've got to align, I've got to spam that warp. You see that I'm aligning and I'm spamming warp while applying DPS. You can't put all your eggs into one basket and say, well, I'm just going to align away and just pray that I get out and completely ignore my other way out, which is killing this guy. And so what I need to be doing here is I need to be spamming warp, but even spamming warp, I shouldn't be doing it. I should be more monitoring my distance. I'm 3.3 kilometers away. I'm not going to break his tackle. He's not going to go cap dead, most likely. I broke his tank. What's the better thing to do? Stop the overload on my, well, so that's actually a tough call. Now you could say that I could stop my overload on my afterburner and slow down a little bit, which will allow him to come a little bit closer maybe, and thus increase the damage output on him. I could turn in on him, but then I've got to realign once targets land. What I definitely should be doing is I should run a directional scan and see what's coming at me, but stay aligned. Whenever you're in trouble, one of the best things you can do to keep yourself alive is just stay aligned. Look at the horrible damage that his drones are doing to me. It's terrible. It's because I'm in armor. I've got really good EM resist for the acolytes. So I am moving away from this guy, but I almost feel like, and I know that had I slowed down a little bit, I would have killed him faster. Had I turned in on him, I would have killed him. It's It's a tough decision. Either way, it works. You see, I did. I finally turned back in on him because I saw, but then had I just waited another second, so too little too late. I killed the Dramiel. It was actually an expensive Dramiel. Now, what I've got to do now is I've got to very quickly align back, get aligned, because what I have to expect is that targets will be landing any second. So what I'm going to do, and this might be a little bit annoying, so I'm going to go back. And I'm going to go back to the point at which we made the decision, oh crap, here comes a blob to kill me, 15 plus people, and we're going to count it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 seconds, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33 before the first target lands. But it's a stiletto, and the stiletto, unless he warped directly to his friend, he would, if he'd warped to the gate directly, which I wouldn't be surprised if he made that mistake and forgot that he had bubble immunity, then he's not even a threat. But if he warped to his buddy, he would be a threat. We're probably not going to see because I'm already in warp. You can see the warp lines here. So that was over 30 seconds you saw. Now, I think it's worth noting that I had that 30 seconds. I thought I only had 10. You heard me. I thought I only had 10. But when you're setting up a bubble like this, having a long distance in between the gates works in your favor because of that very thing. There's a system in Cloud Ring that you've seen me if you watched my Brutix videos or Pilgrim videos. I think Pilgrim was the main one I used, where it was like 100 AU warp pipe system, and I was just killing it there nonstop because it's such a long warp that if they try to bait you, you're going to always win that fight before they can get anything in there to just try to kill you. And it's the same thing here, 30 seconds. So I'm surprised. I would have guessed 10, 15 seconds before the first target landed. But you see I'm out. Let's run directional. And we see it's a pretty nasty fleet. Jackdaws, Flycatcher, Daredevil. Daredevil would have held me down. The Jackdaws would have just alphaed me, absolutely wrecked me. I would have been dead. So, was there a better way to play it? So, I mean, it's easy for me to sit here and tell you that this was the best way and that this is how you could do it. But then I'm learning too. No one's ever going to be perfect at this game. There's no one who makes all the right choices. So for me personally, I'm taking the lesson that I think maybe had I been a little bit calmer in that situation and had I, instead of moving away from that Dramiel so quickly, had I just committed to the fight and stayed on him, I could have nuked him a lot faster and probably got off grid a good 5 seconds sooner had I stuck with the fight rather than trying to disengage. But, it's easy to say that in hindsight. My instincts told me it was time to get away. And you saw that I finally did get more than 10k away and break his point. So I could have disengaged. So then you have to say, well, maybe that was the better thing because I won both of those cards. So I had 2 ways out, and I won both of them. I succeeded at both of my ways out. 1, I got myself unpointed. 2, I destroyed the target pointing me. So I had options. So I'm going to leave that to you to decide which one was best. I'm really not that sure. I can see it going both ways, but man, would I be upset if I would have warped off with that Dramiel in structure. I would have been really, really upset. So let's see if I show you the kill. And you see I've got armor damage. I wasn't so worried about it as I was leaving because I knew that I'd have a chance to rep it later, and the fight was already won. It wasn't such a big deal. I don't need to be overloading while I'm repping outside of PvP. You see there's a heretic here on gate. If he was smart, he would bubble and jump. What does he do? He just jumps. Oops. So I immediately warp off to a safe spot. Like I said before, that's not the smartest thing for me to do, but a lot of times it's the easiest thing to do. It's just to align away back to the gate you came in on. There we go. It's 53 mil. He had the Republic Fleet medium shield extender, which tells me that this kill mail is not accurate. On Z-Kill, you would see that probably going for 80 mil or more for that Dramiel, 90, maybe even 100 mil. You just have Tech 1 rigs, which is kind of disappointing. If you're going to spend that money, why not get Tech 2? And why not fill your holes? I mean, if you're a shield tank and you're leaving your hole open, that doesn't make much sense to me. So that's all there is really to show. I always check my passive modules to make sure that there's no damage to be repaired while I'm repairing after a fight. And get repped, get everything reloaded. You never know when another opportunity is going to come. So once I'm back up and ready to go, I'm going to start messing with these guys, looking, maybe they get discouraged and they all leave and one guy stays on the bubble by himself, in which case I might jump down there and try to kill him. Didn't happen in this fight, but don't just assume because you won the first battle that the whole fight's over. I'm trying to figure out why that guy said wrecked. He wasn't on grid, so I'm not really sure. He must have been on comms with the guy. But that's it for that video. I hope you learned something from it. I did. Going back and watching it again, that's the first time I've watched it again. And what I learned is that next time I'm going to be a little bit more conscious of my range, and I'm not going to be so quick to run. I think that while what I did was a good decision, it wasn't the absolute best decision. I think the best decision would have been to stick with him just a little bit longer. Maybe just do the same exact thing that I did, but wait about 3 or 4 seconds before I did it. So get 3 or 4 more seconds of good damage on him before I started backing away. And that might have, in the end, helped me save 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds to where I could have got out sooner. Because in a situation like that, in a one verse blob situation, you've got to realize that the myth of the super PvPer who's going to take down a 20-man fleet solo is complete BS. When you see other solo PvPers doing that, they're only doing that because the situation is perfect for that to happen. They've got billions in implants. They've got links, or they used to, not so much anymore, but they used to in the older videos. They had links, giving them really big bonuses, especially to their reps. They're usually in a battleship or a command ship or something very tanky. So you only see that when it's a situation that's completely perfect for that individual. Now, in all those situations, you add a pilgrim to the grid and everything just goes bad, right? But if you're in a Vindicator and 3 Tech 1 cruisers and 5 destroyers and, maybe 5 frigates jump in, you're going to be able to kill them all. But that's because they're all very low quality ships with pilots who don't know what they're doing, who are just saying, screw it, let's do it, and going after this guy who is very good at what he does and has a significant advantage in implants, equipment, and probably links. And if not links, it's just a good situation. Personally, I know that for every one awesome fight you see like that, there's 5 to 10 terrible fights where the person gets blobbed, hot dropped. It's not realistic PvP. Don't strive to be that type of PvP. Don't look at that and say, that's what I want to be. Because you're going to get discouraged. It's a bad goal. Unless you have not even tens of billions of ISK, unless you have over 100 billion ISK, just sitting there ready to be spent, then it's just dumb. Don't do it. The better thing to do in a one verse whatever, here one verse me versus Providence situation, is to use isolations. Like in my 1v1 or in my how to fight multiple opponents cartoon, you don't win a 1v2 by fighting 2 people at the same time. You win a 1v2 by fighting one person, then fighting another person. But separating the 2 fights into 2 separate fights, that's how you win. You create 2 1v1s. So your only job is to be better 1v1 than your target. That's all you have to do. be better 1 versus 1, and then work your isolations. Get your time isolation, your warp isolation, your aggro isolation, your distance isolation. Study your isolations. And that's what's really going to be crucial for making this work, for getting these kind of kills, for surviving those kind of kills. And then it's hit and run. Kill them as fast as you can and get out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this new Wolf update. I might add some more videos here in the future because I really do love this ship. But I say that for all the ships I really fall in love with, like the Pilgrim, the Brutix, the Cinnable. And, you know, as much as I love them, I can't do the same ship every single time. So I have to keep moving. I can't let myself get comfortable. If you get comfortable, you stop growing. So what's next? I don't know. Maybe I'll play with some missile boats. I haven't done that in a long time, so who knows? I really don't like drone boats, except for the Pilgrim. And I don't like the Pilgrim for the drones. I like the Pilgrim for the newts and the cloak. The drones just are there. I'd be just as happy if I could get the newts and turrets. It's the newts that give you the advantage plus the cloak as a secondary. But so yeah, I'm looking for a new ship now. I've got to finish the Cinnable guide, which I'm working on right now. And God, if I can just get real life to cooperate, then I can get it done. Then it's not going to be long before I have the Cinnable guide done. I've got the hardest part of it done. I just need to finish the last few videos and get it uploaded. So hopefully that comes out in the next few weeks to a month. I hope, but we'll see. So I'll see you guys next time.